listening to the Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sportcat, often imitated, never duplicated, because they can't get it right. How is everyone? I hope you're having a great weekend. I'm hoping for a good one.
I'm going to come.
Well, there is that. So maybe. I don't know. Hello, Denise. Welcome to the show. Glad to see you. Wendell, as always, it's a pleasure. And Chris, you as well. I'm glad to see you here. Hope everybody is ready for a great weekend. Depending on what part of the country you live in, it could be a wet one. It looks like the country is in for some wet weather this weekend. All right. Well, if you're new to the show, the first thing I do is ramble for the first hour talking about what is today. Well, we should know that today, well, I guess depending on what part of the world you're in, it is Friday on the East Coast, and I believe it is Saturday morning over with our Australian friends. But what is today, we signify by other means, like today, May 9th, is Alphabet Magnet Day. Do you remember those when a kid, you had the little board and you put them up on there? I liked it, except you could only spell certain words because you only had certain letters. If you had like multiple sets of them, you could spell all kinds of words. That's where I learned to spell cat. So speaking of which, it is Child Care Provider Day. Ooh, we need to make sure to alert Miss, I'm drawing a brain cramp. Amanda, good Lord. We need to alert Miss Amanda that it is Fantastic Friday. And we want you to partake in some fantastic awareness drives. Let's see what we can send her. Let's send her something fun. For those of you that don't know, I do a Wednesday night show called The Para Are Normal Guys. And she's my co-host. And she's also one of the co-hosts of My Two Witches and Monday Night Horrors. And she has a phenophobia. That's not the correct enunciation because I don't know how to do it. There it is right there. Is that it? No, that ain't it. So it's time we celebrate Fantastic Friday, which takes place every second Friday of May. This year it takes place on May 9th. And I can't pronounce that fancy word, but it's a subclass of cartilaginous fish that includes sharks, rays, swims, yeah, well, the skates, and sawfish. It's the focus of the special day. These aquatic animals contain 5 to 7 pairs of separately opening gill clefts, inflexible dorsal fins, and tiny scales, placoid scales. All right, so this day started in 2015, and it's apparently a thing. So what we want to do is we want to wish Amanda, if you're listening, Amanda, if not, somebody please make sure to shoot her a message and wish her a happy, fantastic Friday. So she'll love that. All right, let's go on. Let's carry on. Guernsey Liberation Day. Guernsey. All right. Well, I'm not sure where Guernsey is, but they were liberated. So happy Liberation Day. Hooray for Buttons Day. Did your grandparents have a metal tin that had all kinds of buttons in it? I still found that. I found it in my basement here. My grandmother still had one. And it's like a big old metal tin. Anybody collects buttons, maybe they're worth something. I did find some of military ones from my family. Lost Sock Memorial Day. Now tell me how it is that we always lose just one sock, but it happens all the time. National Butterscotch Brownie Day. I can't say that I've ever had a butterscotch brownie, so Mom did make a chocolate cake yesterday. She did not make a cupcake. So that's something. National Christina Day. If you know a Christina, make sure to say hello and that we appreciate you, Christina. It's National Military Spouse Appreciation Day. I believe that the military celebrated that yesterday. National Moscato Day. It's a chance to raise your glass in favor of your favorite tasty wine, your white wine. National Provider Appreciation Day. I wonder if it focuses on child care workers. Yeah, we talked about that. National Public Gardens Day. Well, that's a good thing. National Sleepover Day. Man, I grew out of that about, 20 years ago. Well, no, let's see. A little bit longer than that, a couple days ago. It's National Russian Victory Day. Okay, do not tell the FBI this. Hey, KG, welcome. Do not tell the FBI this because it is the Tear the Tags Off Mattress Day. Yes, remove as many tags as you want and do not miss out on this quirky celebration. But please, please, no one notify the FBI. I remember as a kid, that was a thing. So Wendell says there is a sock eating cryptid that lives in the dryer. Yes, yes, there is. It's Billy Joel's birthday, Kelsey's animated birthday, a young animator. All right, well, I did not know that. And Noah Centino's birthday. Well, happy birthday to you, Noah. I don't know who you are, but happy birthday. So, all right, well, let's see what other kind of day we can get into. We'll look at this other one over here. I like to run through two of them just, well, because. Let's see. National Knockout Rose Day. Knockout, Friday before Mother's Day. What does knockout mean? Does that mean you trim them or you cut them? National Home Front Heroes Day. Well, that's a good day. Founded by the National Calendar Association. Is that kind of like Hallmark? They just make their own days. National Alphabet Magnet Day. We talked about that. National Sleepover Day. Ooh, pillow fight. National Military Spouse Appreciation Day. We did talk about that. Provider Appreciation Day. Butterscotch Brownie. The only thing I can ever remember was butterscotch was those round, hard candies that my grandmother used to keep. I don't ever remember them being in any other form. So it's Lost Sock Memorial Day. So Wendell, please hang up all of your lost socks so that the cryptid can come get them. They're missing one. Today in history, well, it's May 9th, 1502. Ooh, that's been a few days ago. Denise says there is a brand of roses called knockout roses. Okay, well, thank you, Denise. I didn't know that. I only knew they come in like white, red, and maybe blue. I think there's one other color, yellow. That's the only colors I ever knew of. But one of my nurses that I worked with, she was a florist part-time, and she said that they used to put dye in the I guess the vases, and that the rose would suck up the vase, and you could make a rose any color. I don't know. Oh, Wendell. I wish she was listening. It's maybe today I can sleep over with Shay. Well, and Chris says I'm using National Provider Appreciation Day to once more express my appreciation for Dr. Mark A. Grow. You know, we really need to find out what the heck he did. In 1502 on this day, Wendell, you might remember this, Columbus launched his final voyage, yes, to the New World. That was when they thought the earth was flat. Well, maybe you still think it is. Departing from Spain, Columbus and his crew set sail for Martinique. While in the Caribbean, Columbus and his crew had to ride a hurricane in what is today's Dominican Republic. After the hurricane, Columbus sailed to Central America to explore the region. While there, the native people introduced Columbus and his crew to cocoa for the first time. By September of 1504, 2 years later, he had returned to Spain. Can you imagine taking a boat ride for 2 years? Whew. All right, well, in 1800, John Brown is born. That's kind of an ugly picture of him. He was an American abolitionist. He was born in Torrington, Connecticut. In the years leading up to the Civil War, he became known for his fervent anti-slavery views. He said that he was a, quote, instrument of God who had a sacred obligation to bring an end to the institution. Ultimately, he famously led to a slave rebellion in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia in 1859, for which he was convicted of treason and hanged. Well, that was awful nice of them. The picture looks like Dan Marino. Doesn't you think so? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe Dan Marino's a vampire. We just didn't know it. He still got lost. Well, there's a lot of arguments about Columbus. 1897, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show opens in London. That's interesting. I didn't know London had a Wild West show. Buffalo Bill's Wild West show opens in London. showcasing the stories and legend of the American West on an international stage. The show reenacted famous events that occurred on the frontier, such as Custer's Last Stand, train robberies, and Pony Express races. It also features figures like shooter Annie Oakley. Queen Victoria herself attended a showing, and the spectacle went on to become a wildly popular thing across Europe. Interesting. Um, if you want to experience a train robbery today, you can go to Stone Mountain Park outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and that's one of the things they still do. 1947, Willie Francis faces the electric chair for the second time. What? How do you get it twice? I thought you only get it once. Willie Francis, a black teenager who was sentenced to death for murder, is put to death a year after the first attempt to execute him failed. In May of 1946, he survived his first scheduled execution when the electric chair malfunctioned because a drunk prison guard had set it up incorrectly. I'm laughing only because it was a drunk prison guard. Francis then appealed his death penalty, citing double jeopardy and cruel and unusual punishment. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected the appeal. The second attempt to execute him was successful. I was reading an article, and it's not in our news today, but South Carolina did a execution by shooting you. What's that called? You got it. There's three guys, and so I only thought one of them had bullets, but apparently they all three have bullets, and they aim for the heart. Well, apparently in South Carolina, 2 out of the 3 hit the guy. Execution squad, I guess it's called. 2 out of the 3 hit the guy, and they didn't hit him in an area that would immediately kill him. And apparently they can't do a headshot because of it would ruin the family having a open casket. So, but yeah, 2 out of the 3 hit him, and you're supposed to aim for the heart, and neither of the 2 did hit him, apparently, according to the autopsy. So there's a big scandal about that now. But and I did look it up. At one point in time, Georgia was one of the last states, I believe it's now been taken away, where they could use the guillotine. Is that that would, to me, would be the most humane way, because like once you it's done, right? I mean, I don't know, but all right. Well, 1386. Well, that's going way back. A treaty between Windsor and Portugal and England is ratified, strengthening ties between the two kingdoms. Okay. 1865, President Andrew Johnson issues a proclamation declaring that armed resistance in the South is virtually at an end, the commonly accepted end date of the American Civil War. All right. In 1901, the first Australian Parliament opens in Melbourne, though the first working session is not until May 21. 1941, British intelligence at Bletchley Park breaks German spy codes after capturing Enigma machines aboard the weather ship München, maybe. 1945, Soviet Union celebrates Victory Day in WW2. In 1960, the United States becomes the first country to legalize the birth control pill. 1958, Vertigo, American film noir psychological thriller, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak, is released. That's an old one. Today in music, in 1962, the Beatles signed their first contract with EMI. And there's such an interesting history about the Beatles and their contracts. 2023, George Harrison's Here Comes the Sun becomes the first Beatles song to register 1 billion streams on Spotify. It is also the oldest song to do so. Okay, that is a good song. In 2001, Acura Sports Stadium disaster. 129 Ghanaian football fans die in a stampede caused by the firing of tear gas by police following a decision by a referee in a crucial match between arch rivals Accra Hearts and Oka Kuswami Asante Kotoko. All right. Denise says that the first electric chair was made in Corning, New York. All right. And Chris says, I would look much more concerned if I was facing the electric chair. There is a second time. Denise says, Wendell, if you pull out the lint drawer, you may find your lost sock. Love it. All right. Let's go on. Word and see. We don't have a whole lot of news today. We have some, but they're all wanting to talk about the Pope today. And well, the Pope is not something I really want to talk about. But there may be some things that are quite interesting that are taking place. And I don't want to say that I do not want to be clickbait and try and scare you and say that there's some type of cyber threats or cyber attacks or whatever. I want you to take the data and do what you want with it. Wendell says, when did they stop executing prisoners like they did William Wallace? All right. So Newark Airport today was hit by a 90 seconds communication outage. And this was shortly around noon. A facility that guides air traffic in and out of Newark Airport suffered a 90-second communication outage Friday, the second outage in 2 weeks, and the latest in a string of equipment woes that have raised public alarm. The FAA said the telecommunications outage impacted communications and radar systems at Philadelphia Terminal Radar Approach Control that guides aircraft in and out of Newark around 3:55 a.m. on Friday, and it lasted about 90 seconds. So this was reported just before noon today. The New York Times reported an air traffic controller discussed the outage with the pilot of a FedEx aircraft, citing a recording of an air traffic controller communication with pilots and saying, "Our scopes just went black again." The latest incident highlights the air traffic controls network's aging infrastructure and comes days after Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy proposed spending billions of dollars to fix it over the next 3 to 4 years. The FAA said Wednesday it was taking immediate steps to address ongoing problems that have disrupted hundreds of flights at Newark since April 28th, especially from United Airlines, the largest carrier at the airport located just outside New York City. United said on Friday that the FAA outage impacted the Newark operation, but did not elaborate. It has sharply cut flights and wants the FAA to impose new limitations on Newark flights to address ongoing delays. Decades of failing to properly invest in the system have prevented good faith efforts to make technology upgrades and bolster the staffing of our nation's hardest working air traffic controller. United CEO Scott Kirby had said in an interview on Fox News Friday. The FAA said it is increasing air traffic controller staffing, adding 3 new high bandwidth telecommunications connections, and deploying a temporary backup system to the Philadelphia Tracon, which during the switch is a more reliable fiber optic network. Duffy said that Thursday the FAA had 2 redundant lines. Both are up and working now at Philly. The FAA did not immediately answer why the backup did not prevent Friday's incident. Newarkers have been hit by runway construction, FAA equipment outage, and air traffic controller shortages that have prompted urgent calls from lawmakers investigating and funding. FlightAware said there were nearly 300 flights delayed and 135 canceled. Duffy said Thursday controllers overseeing planes at the busy airport lost contact with the airport on April 28th for 30 to 90 seconds. It's an incident that has raised serious alarm. Well, 30 to 90 seconds is a lifetime if you're needing guidance as to where other aircraft is. The FAA last year relocated control of Newark airspace to Philadelphia to address staffing in congested New York City traffic area. It's interesting they move it to Philadelphia because that's a busy area as well. Um, why did they just use a picture of a traffic jam? That's a good question. I guess because it's showing where the arrivals and destinations are. I guess that's what it is. And like, follow, and subscribe to see how to place the picture is in the story. That is correct. It is kind of out of place. I mean, it does have level 1 arrivals there, but you're correct. That is kind of weird. So that comes to us from Market Screener. Yeah, interestingly enough, at some point in time when I was much younger, much younger, I actually considered being an air traffic controller, and I was told by an old air traffic controller at the time, do not do it. I smoke and drink daily, and this is the most stressful job I've ever had in my life, and I hate every moment of it. I was like, okay, solid advice. So I did not pursue it any further. That is a true story. I grew up in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. All right, so another thing that happened today, and this is on the West Coast, BART has suspended its entire operations Friday, and it is now morning. Well, it's getting close to lunchtime over on the West Coast, but they suspended all of their operations Friday due to a, quote, computer networking problem, with transit crews trying to figure out the problem. BART officials, and I think BART serves San Francisco only, but BART officials said around 5 a.m. that the transit line has a problem with its control system. Commuters are advised to use alternative means of transportation. The system remained suspended as of 8 a.m. AC Transit, I'm not sure what that is. San Francisco Municipal were providing mutual aid, according to BART. There's no given estimate of when they would resume operations. So that was two main things that have went down this morning, and that was just some of them that I saw. And there's numerous headlines about blackouts coming, and we will talk about that soon because they're citing weather, but we'll just see. All right, so this is trending. I don't normally like to do this, but it's trending. And so I figure since it's trending, I will share it. Fox News Cameron Kinsey, she fainted live on the air while slamming the Bidens, in the View interview. All right, so Fox News viewers suffered a scary moment on Thursday night as the commentator fainted live on the air during an interview segment. Cameron Kinsey, a former staffer for President Donald Trump, who is now a political commentator, fainted during Thursday night's live episode of Fox News at Night. She was critiquing former President Joe Biden's comments on Thursday morning's episode of The View, where he said he wasn't surprised that Trump won the 2024 election and blamed sexism for Kamala Harris's loss. Kinsey slammed Biden's remark and said the Democrats have to rewrite history because they had a failed campaign. This is what they have to do. They have to rewrite. It's like Elmer Fudd. Rewrite history because they had a failed campaign. They had a failed presidency. They put her as a border czar. She never went to the border. So this is about incompetency. It's not about ideology. She said as her voice trailed off and she appeared to lose focus. She fell over out of her chair, and host Jonathan Hunt attempted to segue into a different segment, then ultimately threw it to a commercial break. Oh my goodness, we're just going to get some help for Cameron, he said, as another staffer ran towards her. When the show returned, he said, Cameron is up and moving. We have paramedics checking her out now. We will keep you updated. And if for some reason you are triggered easily, please. I don't know if you could hear that, but he actually did a pretty decent job of something of an emergency. And So, a spokesperson for Fox News shared a statement saying after Fox News at Night guest Cameron Kinsey fainted during a live on air appearance last night in our Los Angeles bureau, paramedics were called and she was treated and cleared. It's kind of unusual because usually these large buildings that are live on the air have a staff medic on duty all the time. In our Los Angeles bureau, paramedics were called and she was treated and cleared. We're happy to hear she is feeling much better and we wish her a speedy recovery. Kinsey worked for Trump during his presidency and later served as a White House correspondent for One America News. Chris says she handles TV interviews like Biden handles stairs. Well, hopefully hers was just a temporary medical condition, and she'll be okay. But she could have not ate. There's a lot of things that could have happened. So we wish her well. I don't wish anyone, no matter whom they are. It's funny looking. It is always funny to look back on somebody after they fall, but it's never funny at the moment. And what's the saying is, it's not a good party until the paramedics show up. Well, I've been to a lot of good parties. All right. CBS anchor elicits Snickers by calling Vatican cell phone confiscation raw dogging it during a conclave coverage video. The changing meaning of the slang terms can be jarring. For example, raw dogging it, a term that literally, since its inception nearly 50 years ago, is referred to having unprotected sex. Recently, however, some people have started using it, ironically, to refer to it, instead to doing any mundane or difficult task cold. An irony aside, in the vast majority of instances. And for most people, it still refers to, well, the other thing. The shifting meaning provided amusing, or depending on your perspective, unfortunate exchange on Wednesday's CBS edition of CBS Mornings. The moment came as reporter John Allen was explaining how the vote is being run. Quote, one thing to understand is that all of that takes time. We imagine in the conclave that there's always charged political debate going on. No, inside the Sistine Chapel itself, virtually the entire time that the cardinals are inside is given over to the ritual of the ballot, he stated. He goes on to say, each ballot takes about an hour and a half, and with this extraordinary number of lectors, it'll probably take a little longer. So they sit the whole time, they don't stand up, and most of them will tell you that while that's going on, they're sitting reading their breviary. That's a book of prayers that the clergy have, are praying with a rosary, he continued. The one thing we know they're not doing is checking Instagram because their devices have been confiscated. At this point, anchor Tony Dakupul interjected, saying, I believe the kids call it raw dogging it if you're going to go through a long period of time with no electronic devices. This promoted some awkward snickering from the on-screen panel, which included Vatican analysis Delia Gallagher and co-anchors Nora O'Donnell, Maurice Du Bois, Seth Doan, and Chris Livesley. And to be honest, everyone watching, so I won't play it because it's more of a sight gag, or it's not really a sight gag, but yeah. So there is that. Chris, you're correct. It is funny because she is okay. So she could have just been stressed for doing her new gig, maybe. I don't know. Well, this comes to us from an alert viewer, and Chris says anchor Tony Dakupul has been on a viral streak. He did the Bill Belichick interview last week. Oh, he's that guy. Okay. Well, this comes to us from an alert viewer. Tennessee barbecue range lands at Maccas, and I'm assuming Maccas, Maccas, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, alongside the double Tennessee burger with twice the amount of Aussie beef and cheese. McDonald's launched its new Tennessee barbecue burger across Australia as part of a limited time promotion. It features barbecue sauce, honey mustard, crispy onions, salad, and Aussie beef on a soft bun. The new burger comes with the double Tennessee burger option with twice the amount of Aussie beef and cheese. It's only available whilst a short period of time. The range is available while stock lasts in stores at the drive-through, the My Macaz app. So there you go. If you live in Australia and you want a taste of some of the area that I'm currently in, it's barbecue sauce, but they put a little Jack Daniels in it and make it so much better. But they probably don't in the McCaw's version, or McDonald's as we call it. So try it out. I kind of wish we had that here, to be honest with you. And I imagine it probably tastes so much better over there than it does with us here in the States. Because we have the bread doesn't ever go out of date. The meat's been frozen for 10 years. It's a mess. So, but we're going to make America healthy again in like 2029 or something. All right, so there's a new map that's going around the internet scaring a lot of people today, and it reveals that all major U.S. cities are sinking. Well, it's because we're all fat. No, I didn't mean that. 28 major cities in the United States, including New York, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., are seeing their urban inches sink by some 2 to 10 millimeters per year, with Houston being the fastest sinking city, new research is showing. Massive ongoing groundwater extraction was found to be the most common cause of the sinking, which may push infrastructures, quote, past their safety limit. Remember those words. Researchers warn in a study published in the Journal of Nature Cities. The studies by researchers from Virginia Tech and several other universities use satellite data to map out vertical land movements in 28 of the most populous cities where the populations exceeded 600,000 people. The researchers found that 25 of the 28 studied, 2/3 or more of the urban area is sinking in every city. At least 20% of the area is sinking, while in 25, at least 65% is sinking, and around 34 million people's lives are in these affected areas. According to the study, this is the map here. According to the study, 8 cities, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, LA, New York, Philly, Phoenix, San Antonio, account for more than 60% of those people living on subsiding land. Those 8 cities have had more than 90 significant floods since 2000, likely driven in part by the lowering topography, researchers noted. So there you go. If you live in one of those cities, you're sinking. As cities continue to grow, we will see more cities expand into subsiding region, said the study's lead author, Leonard Owen, almost said Cohen, a researcher at Columbia Climate School in New York City, in a statement. Over time, the substance sinking can produce stresses on infrastructure that will go past their safety limit. They've said it twice now. The structural integrity of buildings, roads, bridges, and dams can be profoundly affected even by these small movements. Even slight downward shifts in lands can cause significantly compromise. Let's try that again. Even slight downward shifts in land can significantly compromise the structural integrity of buildings, roads, bridges, and railways over time. New York, Chicago, Seattle, Denver, and 5 other cities were found to be sinking about 2 millimeters per year. Several cities in Texas had the highest measured rate of subsidence sinking in at about 5 millimeters, around 1/5 of an inch per year, and as much as 10 millimeters, just under a ½ inch per year in some parts of Houston, the fastest sinking city in the study. Over 40% of Houston's urban area is sinking more than 5 millimeters per year, with 12% of the area sinking at twice its rate. If you're in Houston, you can hear my voice, get out. Some localized areas are sinking as much as 5 centimeters, about 2 inches per year, with other cities, Texas, Fort Worth, Dallas, being not far behind. Other fast sinking localized zones include areas around New York City, LaGuardia Airport, and as well as parts of Vegas, Washington, D.C. Oh, there you go, KG, run, San Francisco. Hey, there are BARTs out today. The study also found that the local areas in some cities are sinking at different rates, with some parts even sinking while others rise. Uplifting in certain local areas was found to be more than compensating for the overall sinkage in 3 cities, which included Jacksonville in Florida, Memphis, interesting because Memphis is on a cave, and San Jose in California. Even these uneven vertical movements can lead to dangerous tilting, whereas an entire urban area is shifting either up or down at the same rate. The risk of stresses put on infrastructure is minimized, the researchers noted. Well, it's only minimized until your building collapses. According to the study, only around 1% of the total area in the 28 cities lies within the zones, while with differing rates of motions that could impact buildings and other infrastructure. However, these zones are typically the densest urban areas, currently have around 29,000 buildings. The most hazardous cities in this regard were found to be San Antonio, where the researchers say 1 in 45 buildings are subject to high risk, as well as Austin, 1 in 71, Fort Worth, 1 in 143, and Memphis, 1 in 167. The study also found that groundwater removal for human use was the cause for 80% of the overall sinkage. I was going with aliens. After the water is extracted, the pore space formerly occupied by water can eventually collapse and lead to sinkage at the surface. The study points out in Texas, the issue is made worse by the pumping of oil and gas. A lot of small changes will build up over time, magnifying weak spots with urban systems and heighten flood risks, one researcher warned. And one associate professor at Virginia Tech who worked with him said in a statement, the latent nature of this risk means that the infrastructure can be silently compromised over time, with damage only becoming evident when it is severe or potentially catastrophic, noting that the risk is often exacerbated in rapidly expanding urban centers. The researchers say that the continued population growth and water usage, coupled with climate-induced droughts in some areas, will likely exacerbate sinkage in the future. The study recommends implementing mitigation measures such as groundwater management and enhanced infrastructure resilience planning to account for various sinking rates and to prevent worsening infrastructure risks. All right, so that comes to us from Newsweek, where they're trying to scare the bejesus out of you about sinking cities. I do remember it may have been last week, and it was in Florida, and I didn't run this story. Now I wish I had. It was a hotel they closed because it was sinking. And if you remember, I believe it was Miami a few years ago, there was an entire apartment building that collapsed. Denise says she cannot swim. And KG says Aussies pronounce it Mac Ooze, while we call it Mickey D's. Okay. Chris says maybe they should not be spending trillions of tax dollars on building underground bunkers in the city everywhere. Maybe a correlation. You know, if I could find, Chris, and I know exactly what you're talking about because all these other prepper channels are running with that story about how they've spent trillions of dollars since the Bush era building underground cities, some even under the ocean, and there's high-speed connecting rails to all of them. If I could find one source that just even close to being somewhat reliable, I would run with that story. But until then, I'm going to call it clickbait. Not that I don't believe it, because I do. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I can remember at night being asleep and hearing diesel engines and voices deep under the ground and machines and rumbling. So I can remember that plainly. And I used to ask friends that worked at the local base there, Fort Belvoir, if they knew about the underground roads. And it prompted more than one visit because of my grandparents' job. And one of my friends, who was actually a police officer, said, would you please stop mentioning this? I have to report it every time you say something. So It's a real thing, but I just can't find a reliable source. And if I can find an opening here in East Tennessee, I'm bored on weekends. Hell, I would go try and dive into the city and get a video. Chris says they can link plastic grocery bags to climate change, but can't link city shiftings to when you are building new cities under them. Correct. Well, we could also be getting fatter too, Chris. That was the first thing I thought about. They're going to say, this is a reason we got to go on a diet. We're getting fat. So yeah, that was my first thought when I went with that article. All right, so this comes to us from a NPR station here in East Tennessee, and it's something that we had talked about. I think it was last week when they were well, no, it might have been my radio show. There was a husband and wife that was on the cafe sidewalk of a popular bar, and they were consuming alcohol, and it's obviously warm down there. Well, apparently he leaned over and they were doing public displays of affection. Well, it went into where his hand was under her skirt, and we'll just say he was diddling his digits. And apparently she became quite noisy during this process and exchange, and a Karen activated 911 and police showed up. And apparently she was still rather excited, and the act was ongoing because they watched it to make sure for their body cameras. I'm not making this up. She was charged with allowing him to diddle her in public. And what was the other one? What do they call it when you're too noisy in public? A disturbance of the peace. And he was only charged with committing a lewd act and being under the influence of alcohol. They were at a bar on a sidewalk, but at any rate, it amazed me that she racked up more charges than the guy, because they said, and I quote, she allowed the exchange to happen. So hence, we now have this: Tennessee can charge people for crimes they didn't commit. Advocates want reform. Well, yes. Does Tennessee have a crystal ball? In Tennessee, prosecutors can charge people for crimes committed by another person, even if they were not directly responsible. Activist groups are working with state legislators to change that. In 2001, Sean Hatcher was arrested and later sentenced to life in prison for murder. Prosecutors used a Tennessee law to charge him with a crime he says his brother committed. He was only 17 years old. The concept of criminal responsibility for conduct of another isn't a particularly new or unheard of. It's been part of American common law. This set of laws inherited from past judicial decisions. I would say it's probably from the French, since at least the 19th century, and has been part of an official part of the Tennessee State Code for decades. It was a law in which I wasn't aware of at the time, Hatcher said. I was a child. I did not even have a GED. I hadn't even graduated high school, so I was ignorant to that. Criminal justice reform groups are mobilizing to challenge the law, saying it unfairly afflicts minority groups and young people, such as Hatcher. I can't argue that. Theodore Murphy is the director of Abolition Works Tennessee, a criminal justice reform group that has helped introduce legislation in the Tennessee General Assembly that would eliminate the criminal responsibility provision from state law. It has been used to draw in anybody who is even tangentially, basically you could connect a hair to them, related to the incident or to the person whom did it, Murphy said. It's used to rope in a whole bunch of people that the prosecutors just feel should not be on the street, so they can connect you to this person and what they did, even by sometimes very thin evidence. I do not argue that fact. I wish you would cite some examples here. Prosecutors argue the law is helpful in securing convictions and keeping criminals behind bars. Tennessee District Attorney General Conference Executive Director, that's a lot of words, Stephen Crump, spoke at a legislative panel reviewing the bill in March. If you go somewhere to rob somebody, and as a result of that, somebody gets murdered, you are guilty of murder, Crump said before the panel. You are attempting and assisting and people and helping that person commit the underlying crime. If it results in someone's death, you shouldn't get a pass. The bill's sponsor, Senator Ramush Abakabari and Representative Jesse Chisholm, both Democrats from Shelby County, which is Nashville, deferred the bill to next year, making time for a summer study and discussion among the lawmakers before bringing it to a full vote, which means they tabled it because they don't want to hear it. But the conversation surrounding criminal responsibility isn't over. For some, it's just getting started. Just over a year ago, Free Hearts, another criminal justice reform group, was approached by Shauna Hatcher's wife. Shauna Hatcher, Sean's wife. She wanted to share her husband's story and see if the group would be willing to help. Free Hearts work with people who are incarcerated to ensure that their living conditions are bearable on the inside and to secure clemency for those that have been wrongly convicted. They also provide a participatory defense program that helps families and loved ones navigate the criminal justice system. Jada X, a statewide organizer for the group, participates in weekly virtual meetings with families as part of the program. Just over a year ago, she met with Shauna on one of the calls. We have had these Zoom calls. We meet every Tuesday and we talk through cases, X said. And I remember her coming that way. She had basically been a free heart on her own, championing not just for Sean, but she's always been an advocate for folks. Shauna first met her husband in 2018 when he started sending his tithes from prison to her homeless ministry in Nashville. They were married a few years later in 2021. Their relationship is more spiritual than anything. We pray together, fast together, and it gives us strength and our energy, she said. I mean, it gets challenging sometimes, but I mean, it was a choice we made. She studied criminal justice in college and felt she could apply her degree to helping her husband overturn his criminal responsibility conviction. So I just started fighting for him, Shauna said. He was a scared kid in high school, and his junior year, his life got stolen from him because of his brother. After speaking with Shauna and learning Sean's story, Free Hearts has since added her to the clemency watch list. It's a pledge of trust support from the group and adds his name to a list of many others that Free Heart is trying to free from prison. We are presenting cases, not letting them die, making sure they stay alive and at the forefront of the governor's desk so that he won't be overlooked and he won't be forgotten, she said. Republican Tennessee Governor Bill Lee has yet to meet with the Free Heart organizers, so they've also turned down legislators to exact change. Legislative efforts, Free Hearts in Appalachia, Tennessee, approached by Senator Agpari and Representative Chisholm during this year's legislative section to introduce a bill that would eliminate criminal responsibility language from the Tennessee law. A lot of people get in trouble for this, he said, so they might be driving a vehicle that they think maybe their colleague or whoever is going to try and rob a store, but they don't realize they're going to commit murder. And so that individual is then charged with murder because they were part of the crime. The two senators are trying to align punishment with the intent of the person who commits a crime, not to see people who commit crimes go free. We think it just aligns more with the crime that's being committed, Akbari said. We're not trying to stop someone from being punished. If they commit a crime, they should be punished, but aligning punishment with the crime, that's our goal. But the bill has not been without its opponents when presented to a legislative panel in March. The Tennessee District General Conference spoke in opposition to the legislation, saying criminal responsibility laws are essential to securing convictions because criminal responsibility for conduct of another is prosecutorial theory rather than a formal charge. Data on how it is often used is scarce. When asked if they could provide data to the committee in March, they said that they would try to come up with it in time for next year's session beginning in 2026. See, that's my thing. They don't have enough data. They haven't provided enough cases. They're giving one here. So they've delayed the bill until next year's session, and they want to do a summer study. So the organization should have had other cases, and they should have also outlined them in this article. I mean, you're talking about one case, and you really were vague about the case in general in the article. This is just my opinion on it, but um, why do we not know more about the cases? I don't know. All right, let me catch up here in the comments, and let's see. They can link my plastic grocery bag to climate change. They can't link. So did I have to comment on that? You know, grocery bags and the pods for the coffee makers are two of the most pollutant things in the world. If his arm never moves, it also doesn't happen. Stephen Crump's business card must be the size of a billboard. Exactly. That's a lot of words for that. All right, so this one comes to us from East Tennessee. I do not know the gentleman. If you're looking at the headline, Bartow County, Georgia, a North Georgia paramedic accused of installing cameras in ambulance office restroom. A paramedic is accused of installing a camera in his job's restroom just a few weeks after he started, according to a police report. James Crawford, 50, was booked into the jail on 40 counts of unlawful eavesdropping or surveilling last month, and he was released on a $50,000 bond the next day, jail records show. According to a police report obtained exclusively by Channel 2 Action News in Atlanta, an employee of the Metro Atlanta Ambulance Service in Adairsville noticed a clock sitting on a shelf in the restroom in October 2023. When he inspected it, he noticed a slot for an SD card and a camera on the front of it. The company's head of IT scrubbed the card to see if there was footage of someone manipulating the camera. In a clip dated June of 2023, Crawford could be seen moving the camera from the shelf, placing it on a toilet paper holder, and manipulating it before placing it back on a shelf. The report identifies the earliest clip as being taken June of 2023. It says Crawford's first day of work there was May 1st of 2023. So, man, you can Google boobs. I mean, are you that hard up? I mean, really, dude, seriously, there's other things out there. All right. So, well, in case you missed it, we'll hit the highlights on this because, well, I wasn't really into it that much, but apparently it was a big deal because it was trending across almost all things. The American Country Music Awards were last night, and we'll hit the winners just here. We'll go over them quickly. Entertainer of the Year was Lainey Wilson. Female Artist of the Year was Lainey Wilson. Male Artist of the Year was Chris Stapleton. Oh, I was pulling for Morgan Wallen. And that's only because he's from right here in the area I'm located currently. Duo of the Year, Brooks and Dunn's. How long have they been together? Group of the Year, Old Dominion, never heard of them. New Female Artist of the Year, Ella Langley. New Male Artist of the Year, Zach Top. He's got a good name. Shaboozdi, I like that name. New Duo or Group of the Year, the Red Clay Strays was the winner. And the Album of the Year was Whirlwind by Lainey Wilson. Single of the Year, You Look Like You Love Me by Ella Langley and Riley Green. Song of the Year, Dirt Cheap by Cody Johnson, Josh Phillips. Music Event of the Year, You Look Like You Love Me, Ella Langley, Riley Green. Shouldn't there have been a Taylor Swift thing in there? And how did Post Malone not win? Post Malone and Morgan Wallen not win that because he gets drunk and throws things. Come on now. Visual Media of the Year, You Look Like Love to Me, Ella Langley and Riley Green. Artist, Songwriter of the Year, Lainey Wilson. Songwriter of the Year, Jesse Joe Dillon. So there you go. If you're interested in those things, I'm disappointed that Morgan Wallen didn't get to throw anything from the stage. And they also did give Dolly Parton some award. She's just trying to stay relevant in Tennessee. So I'll just leave my comment at that. There are several articles on this. So apparently a new New York City statue of, and I'm quoting, this article comes to us from the Daily Wire. This is not me. This is a female author by the name of Amanda Harding wrote this for the Daily Wire. A new New York City statue of overweight black woman touted as contrast to monuments of white men. A new statue of an overweight black woman placed in Times Square in New York City is inspiring a lot of reactions online, especially since it's being compared to Michelangelo's David. Now that's a stretch. Times Square art. Would you stop that? Times Square Arts recently erected the statue by artist Thomas J. Price, which is called Grounded in the Stars, as a temporary display in the tourist-heavy area of Manhattan. There will be a, quote, man series of billboards displays in the area. I don't know why it's doing that. The Times Square website says of the piece, Price's multi-channel presentation on the screens and sculptural installations on the plaza below form a two-part takeover in Times Square that foregoes the marginalized, foregrounds the intrinsic value of the individual and amplifies traditionally marginalized bodies on in between Los Angeles and London. The young woman depicted in Grounded in the Stars carries familiar qualities from her stance and countenance to her everyday clothing. It says, noting that her stance is subtle, a subtle nod to Michelangelo's David. The site also says the woman grounded in the star cuts a stark contrast to the pedestaled permanent monuments, both white, both men, which bookend Duffy Square, while embodying a quiet gravity and grandeur. Well, social media users have had an overwhelmingly negative reaction to the statue. They tear down statues of American heroes and replace them with statues of random black obese women. That's because the left has no historical figures. Everyone who was born approximately 2005 is intrinsically problematic, according to the Daily Wire podcaster Matt Walsh. Now, this is just a blank generic woman. So wearing Walmart clothes and no bra. Is this really the way they want to be enshrined? I mean, I'm not trying to, is it really the way you want to, or shouldn't we have some prominent figures in history? I mean, there's plenty to choose from. I mean, to me, that would make more sense. I'm not going to read some of the X comments because some of them just get downright mean. And I'm not going to scoot to that level, but I just, apparently these are popping up in major cities everywhere. And I've heard there's one even coming in Knoxville, and I don't understand the why of it. So maybe somebody can come out with an article or explain that. So let's see. You haven't seen anything until you've seen a naked cowboy in Times Square. Well, the first time I went to Grady Hospital in Atlanta, I opened the back of the ambulance door, and there was a very large, very obese black male running at me at a high rate of speed and wanted in the back of my ambulance, and I wanted nothing to do to close those doors and go back to Tennessee. Don't know why. All right, this was trending on X and in Google. I don't know why. I had forgotten about this, but apparently this weekend kicks off the Bassmaster tournaments. So this is a thing. So they're currently this weekend in Lake Fork in Yantis, Texas. And the college one is going to be in Chickamauga Lake later this month in Dayton, Tennessee. And then the following week, they're going to be in Orange, Texas, then Oklahoma for 2 weeks. Then the college one is going to be back in Tennessee. They're going to be back in Michigan the week after that. And then the Opens on the Upper Chesapeake, I remember from that. And then the Clark Hill Lake, Lake Champlain in Plattsburgh, New York. And it goes on throughout the rest of the year. Well, I did not realize that this was a thing. So apparently this is quite the thing. So let's pretend we're interested in the Bassmaster tournament that pretty much goes all year. So there you go. It opens this weekend. So I did not know that, and that's why it's trending. And apparently it even has its own TV channel. So now you know. I didn't know. Now you know. I remember it being a thing when I was younger, but I guess I just forgot about it. So many things I've forgotten about. All right, let's continue on and let's just do what we normally do here. And let's update this to see if FEMA has woke up yet. And it does not appear that FEMA has. So we don't have anything new from FEMA. Could this be because they fired the chief of FEMA? I don't know if it's connected. Are they busy on some type of catastrophic event that we don't know about? I don't know. But we do not have a FEMA daily operations briefing. So, at the top of the hour, I like to remind everybody we're listening to Yerg's Radio, Radio X in Australia, Right Talk Radio in Yerg's Radio, as well as Radio X Talk, all live on the internet. And we here at the Para Our Normal Guys are the Sportcat shows. This is called the Sportcat Daily Gazette. We are anti-prepper. We like to tell you why you survived to go another day. Well, apparently FEMA can't tell us if we're going to survive the weekend or not. So there you go. We're just going to make it up as we go. KG says, the Times Square cowboy, not familiar, so I had to Google it. Ken, that was the wrong thing to Google. Chris says Amanda is going to boycott that tournament. I guess. Hopefully Abe's not a fisherman. So we looked today at the president's schedule. He had a light schedule yesterday. They released this schedule really late yesterday. I think because there were some changes. I think he was supposed to travel abroad late last night and the plans got changed from my sources inside. But they didn't release it very late or early this morning. And there was like apparently whiteout on the computer screens. But the press still had to be there at 9 a.m. for a 1 o'clock press briefing with Secretary Carolyn Leavitt. She did that in the James Brady press room, and it was on camera and open to all media. At 4 o'clock, the president, whom, by the way, has signed more executive orders than any president in history, as far as I know, he may have, that may not be 100% accurate, but everything I've read it is, the president signing even more executive orders in a closed Oval Office today. And there is no plans on travel noted for the weekend yet. That could change. But as of yet, there has not been any changes. So something is amok in Washington, D.C. I advise, since I won't be alive unless we have some type of major catastrophe, you check out my buddy on Penguin 6 on YouTube. He's really good about getting you updated on things going on, and so he's got just a great show, so, or a great channel. So, and it's usually like 15-minute videos once a day. Okay, so let's see here. What are we changing here? We're currently at level 3 on our DEF CON level. This comes to us from DEF CON level. It's an open source intelligence that uses global threat monitoring. And as 5:09 today, 6:07 UTC time, which is, what time is 6:07 as well? It is currently 6:08 UTC time. So they just updated this. So let's see what's going on here. Raised alerts. All right, well, it's raised because of we're at DEF CON level 3. Well, read the FAQ about the different DEF CONs if you want. The current DEF CON levels changes from the level it is now. It will be reflected on alert status as well as regional news pages. You can also find current DEF CON level alerts at combatant command region, up to date, and news ticker for each region. All right, so the current list of areas in the U.S. most likely to be targeted by terrorists. Oh, well, this is based on their research. YouTube, calm down. I'm reading this off of their page. New York City, Washington, D.C., due to their symbolic importance and, of course, history of prior attacks. New Orleans, that's interesting, due to recent attacks and large public gatherings. Major metropolitan areas such as Los Angeles. Did we not just have a outage of BART? Los Angeles, major events and public gatherings such as, they use music festivals up front. Sporting events, that's because there's been 2 music concerts that have been targeted outside the country. Sporting events, national holidays, due to their high casualty numbers. However, no specific threats have been identified. This list will be updated periodically as threats are assessed. The UK has raised travel warnings for the US, stating that terrorists are, quote, very likely to carry out attacks, including mass shootings. Additional areas that are higher risk: Israel, Pakistan, Mali, Nigeria, Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, Myanmar, Iraq, and Niger. So the top 10 countries to suffer a missile attack potential: Ukraine, Israel, Pakistan, Lebanon, Yemen, Iran, North Korea, South Korea, Taiwan, and Russia. This was updated today. And they're still saying we're carrying out 24/7 strikes. I was under the impression that we had a peace treaty and that the Houthis were only going to target the Israelis. So not sure where that data is coming from, but they're saying that we're still raining bombs on them, and they don't have anything new listed as far as their data, other than the, read more. And if you go and do your homework on different warnings, you can see in most areas of the world, they're at elevated rates. I'm just going to leave that. That's from the UK. Not that it's not significantly important. It's just a lot to read. You can go find this if you want at defconlevel.com, and it is updated. They have a news list. They have they have all kinds of things. You can look at the debt clock if you really want to see how much money that your great grandkids are going to pay. I mean, just look at this. It's spinning quicker than I can even see. So yeah, that's the debt clock. They can't even fit it on one screen. Good Lord. I mean, look at this. It just goes on forever. They now have a mobile app for it. Interesting. Who knew? Why would you want that? At any rate, so they have that. And then let's see here. It's a great site. Cyber attacks, which we talk about pretty much daily. They use CENTCOM for that. And nothing since April 30th has been mentioned in a cyber attack. And in a cyber map, and this is live current threats. This is from a different source than the one we use at the end of the show, which is Bitdefender. This says if real-time cyber map does not work correctly, there's a problem with their servers. So they're saying this is the most accurate in real time. We might get to showing this at the end of the show. It's pretty dang accurate. So there's that. There's all kinds of things on this site. Did I click on cyber map? That's what it just came out of, right? Yeah, that's all right. And then of course weather, which we're going to talk about a lot here in just a few minutes. But yeah, you can go there. You can get a lot of that. This is all public source data. I'm not sharing anything that's a military secret, or nobody has approached me and given me anything. But you can go check this out, DEFCON level. I encourage you to do so when you're not around me or listening to my shows, so that you can find out any information that could be relevant to you in your area. A lot of these shows online are talking about how we're about to all have massive blackouts in the United States. I'm not going to beat that drum. I think there's a potential for a lot of things. So I want you to do your own homework, and you can listen to my opinion if you'd like on things, but we'll go from there. All right. So I think that they have really called off most of the severe weather for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama as far as the coastline. Florida, the panhandle there may be a little bit greater, but they have elevated the risk for severe thunderstorms and high floods from pretty much the South Carolina line almost all the way down to Miami. And then from the North Carolina line, just basically the Outer Banks up and into the Chesapeake Bay. Now, most of us from New England back over to Oklahoma are going to see some spotty showers. Along the 95 corridor, you're going to be soaked. And the longer it goes into the weekend, it's going to move up to the northeast. It's going to stall for a little bit over Northern Virginia, D.C., before it finally makes its way out over Maine. But they're going to experience some significant rains over the next few days, and possibly it's just due to their area not having them off in some more violent weather. We're going to be hot back here, but we're going to talk about here in a minute. We're going to be cold in the top of the country. It's kind of a weird thing here. So we look and see. My friend in Colorado sent me pictures last night. It is still snowing in Colorado. Tomorrow, the rains are going to continue in the deep south from basically the Keys up to Carolinas, back over to Texas. Spotty showers that break there as that high pushes through. That's going to be the timing on that's going to depend how much DC, Maryland, Virginia gets, but then the Northeast is going to get sunk. Some pretty heavy rains there. And on day 3 by Friday or Sunday, look at these cold temperatures sneaking back into Washington, Oregon, back there. All that Yankee dander is going to appear in the higher elevations back in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and of course, Colorado, and parts of Northern California. While here in the South, we have a low that's actually going to be spinning in the opposite direction, and it's going to cause some heavy rain in Georgia and Florida, and it's going to be basically a soaker. And most of this coastline, it's going to move further to the south and kind of continue on the track line of the Gulf of America. And so the coastline is going to be sunk with lots of rain over next week. But it could extend as far up as Atlanta, Birmingham, Montgomery, most of Mississippi as it extends down to the west, of course, coat Texas. But yeah, that's going to be some crazy stuff there. Let's look at a few other different maps. And so for today, the NandoCast is calling for the most severe weather and the most rain to be in the Gulf of America, basically the panhandle of Florida back over to the Louisiana, New Orleans area. It's going to make it slightly inland, and the possibility for some severe stuff is there along the coast. If we look at the wind forecast, you look at from Chesapeake Bay down to pretty much the Outer Banks, there's going to be some high winds. The east coast of Florida, Georgia, North or South Carolina, you're going to get some high winds. Those are going to extend inland and back over to the Gulf of America. So pretty much the lower half of Georgia, all the way to the Panhandle, maybe Mobile, Alabama. The chance of hail today is significant, closer to the Chesapeake Bay region, but there is a chance of it all the way down to get to about Jacksonville, where the chances increase even inland, as that wind's going to push a little bit of that storm that's trying to go in the opposite direction. So you can see hail all the way down past Jacksonville today. So keep your eyes and ears open if you're on that. The tornado outlook, it is slim for today, but the Gulf of America, I would say the chances are greater for a waterspout in the Gulf of America. On the east coast of Florida, your chances are slightly higher for some tornadic activity, but I would say hopefully it'll just be waterspouts and stay off of the coast. So wind, this is the next one we're going to talk about for tomorrow, and it's going to be pretty much windy in the Gulf of America, making its way, pushing its way up into the Southland and much of the Carolinas. Along the coastline of the Outer Banks, it's going to be higher there, probably from about Oak Island up to Chesapeake. And then, well, it pretty much covers most of the Carolinas. And then the east coast of Florida, your wind chances tomorrow will be high. Now, on the hail outlook, that chance is going to increase really high for the Outer Banks and the entrance of the Chesapeake Bay because of the storm's location when it breaks in two, basically. And it's going to push that chance all the way to the south, all the way down to Miami, a chance of hail over the weekend. And that's going to carry all the way across Florida, including the Panhandle over to Texas. So eyes and ears open for weather events, especially if you're in the South this time of year. Let's look at what's happening with our friends down under. And for the most part, we'll look at your radar here. We see that it's still, on the coastline of the east side of the continent. Some rain showers, just spotty, maybe a slight one in Queensland. New South Wales, there's no precipitation. There's a little bit of fog and frost inland as your temperature is a little bit cooler there. But basically, it's going to be warm and dry on the west. Maybe up in the northern tropic area, a slight chance of rain, but they're really not calling for much at all. On the shoreline, on Queensland, New South Wales, the Gold Coast there, can expect some precipitation, but they're really not calling for much. Most precipitation will be up the North Tropics up there around Darwin, but even then it's not supposed to be significant. Down in Tasmania, you can anticipate some light rain. Let's go back here and look at the radar in Tasmania and see there's nothing on radar right now. Temperature currently, it's going to be high and dry in the west, cooler on the south. And up in the tropics, it's going to be just about right. Darwin, 77. You go over to the east coast, and you're looking at Brisbane, 61. Cairns, 73. This is current time in temperature, Fahrenheit, by the way, and 50 now. If we're using Celsius, you guys would be melting. That frost in inland, it's a little bit chillier, 36. Melbourne, 47. Down in Hobart in Tasmania, 53. Adelaide, 49. And throughout the day, you're going to warm up here on the west coast. Currently, it's already 74 in Cameroon. So in Perth, it is 65. Broome, 79. Darwin, 77, in case I didn't say that. So let's jump up here to the United States. How old is that? Okay, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Apparently, there is a tropical low off to the north, but it's traveling north of Australia, but it looks like it's going to affect Papua New Guinea more than it will affect anyone. That hadn't even popped up on my radar earlier from what I was reading. So Chris says, I heard from Def Leppard Saturday night was supposed to be high and dry. All right. We're in the U.S. and we're looking at current temperatures. Washington, D.C., you're cool, 60. Charlotte, 76. Atlanta, you're already at 80. Tampa, 86. Jacksonville, 89. Whoo, it's hot already. What is it down here in the Keys? I can't believe it's hotter up in Tampa than it is in the Keys. It's 81 in the Keys. Mobile, 75 degrees, 73 degrees. Wendell, Birmingham, 76. Huntsville, 76. Knox Vegas, it's currently 74. It's going to get much warmer. Back up in the Northeast, Philly, you're at 57. New York, 60. Boston, 50. Burlington, 46. Way up there to tippy top of Bangor, and up there it's around 55 in Edmondson. And we'll go over to the middle of the country, 52 in Chicago. We start seeing where that heat's breaking right here. Minneapolis, 79. Sioux Falls, 84. Omaha, 78. Kansas, 72. And down in Texas, you are not carrying the warmest weather of the day. It goes to Florida and South Dakota. All right, well, I guess it could be Sioux Falls, and it could be a tie between Sioux Falls and Sioux City. So we'll give it to both of them. Well, no, I haven't made it far enough west. We have 90 in Tucson. There we go. Ding, ding. We have a winner. 94 in Phoenix, 87 Vegas, 86 Bakersfield, Redding, 82 Crescent City. You're always cool at 53. Medford, 68. Up in Bend, 70, 62 in Eugene. And we go to Portland at a 65. And we jump all the way up to Seattle and find it to be, 60 in 61 in Tacoma, 60 in Seattle. Olympia, where they used to make good beer, 61. So, did anybody ever drink Mount Rainier beer, and Yakima 68. I have a history with Yakima. Maybe I'll tell that story one day. I think the statute of limitations is up. Let's look at what else is going on weather-wise in the U.S. We'll look at current warnings in the U.S. And we see that this is going to be for up around the Boston area, small craft advisory. It's going to be for some gusty winds. So that's the first thing we see. Florida and Georgia, special weather statement. Well, it's going to be strong thunderstorms this afternoon. So that's going to be down towards the south end of Georgia, the north end of Florida. And, well, there we go. We have Andy sending out his daily test message. He's okay. We know Andy's well. Let's see. Special weather statement. That's probably going to be because of those thunderstorms that are moving through just to the northwest of Panama City, northeast of Panama City. And here, check this out. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. Ohio and Pennsylvania, frost advisory. You heard me correctly. Frost advisory. Yes. Louisiana flood warnings. We talked about that earlier. New York and Pennsylvania, they're getting that ready there for that flood watch up in Maine and New Hampshire. For this coming weekend, you're just going to get drenched up there. The Southeast is getting it right now. You're going to get it later. Puerto Rico, it's still flooding. Goodness gracious. They can't get a break. Red flag warning in Guam, hydrologic outlook in Alaska. And let's see. That's the only thing. Flood warning in Illinois, an air quality in Maricopa County. Rip current statement in the Gulf of America. And what else do we have here? Well, looks like most of it. California heat advisory. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Let's see. And then frost warning and flood warnings. All right, let's just go to the other things here. Looky, what do we have? Millions are facing a frost warning. This comes from Newsweek magazine. Millions face frost warnings as temperatures to plummet to the 20s. Temperatures dropped overnight as across large parts of the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast, triggering freeze warning and frost advisories impacting millions of people. Lows between 26 Fahrenheit and the 30s were forecast in several areas, according to the National Weather Service. A widespread frost advisory remains in effect on Friday morning across several states, including West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The National Weather Service warned that the unseasonably cold temperature could damage or kill outdoor plants and crops if left unprotected. It added that the frost could possibly damage unprotected outdoor plumbing. And we see the areas affected here. Michigan, you have a freeze warning, but over in Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, you have frost advisories. Wisconsin, portions of central, southeast, and northeast Wisconsin, including the cities of Madison. I love Madison. Green Bay and Appleton, they are going to have some frost. Illinois, Winnebago, Boone, McHenry, Kane, and Lake, covering the cities of Rockford and Waukegan. Ohio, portions of east central Ohio, including the counties of Ashtabula, Inland, Holmes, Mahong, Portage, Stark, Summit, Trumbull, and Wayne. Pennsylvania, northwest, southwest, and west, including the counties of Crawford and Erie. West Virginia, portions of central, northeast, northern, and southeast. Michigan, extensive frost advisories and freeze warnings are in effect throughout the lower peninsula in areas such as Muskegon, Grand Rapids, Saginaw, Bay City, with forecasted temperatures to be in the 20s. So they're saying that it's going to be clear and calm, but cold with widespread frost and freeze. So Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, their National Weather Service posted a frost advisory is in effect Saturday morning from 2 until 8 a.m. for portions of the Pittsburgh area. Crazy. So we're going to pull that up and we're going to have a little look here at the map. And this is tomorrow. This is areas that are predicted to see frost or freezing temperatures. You can see a little bit of Washington there. most of Michigan, and most of West Virginia, part of Pennsylvania, New York. It's always up there in Maine, and then over here in Wisconsin. So those are the projected freezing areas today. And that's going to continue. Keep your eyes open for the next 24 hours if you live in those areas, because it's going to be chilly. Now let's look at the wind real quick. Let's see if this is updated. It never is, but let's see. It's not again, but okay. Why this is important? Well, hell, I don't know. No. This is still not updated since April 30th, so I'm moving on. I'm done with this map. I may even just delete it from our map segment. Look at the current our current weather map, and you see fire weather watch up here in the northwest. We didn't really talk about that. Northern Midwest, and over here in Wisconsin as well. But remember all that freezing area up there, and well, in the mountains, the Appalachians in West Virginia, Allegheny Mountains in Pennsylvania. Right now, the worst storms are off the coast of New Orleans. Yeah, off the coast of New Orleans. And there's some strong storms inland, just southwest of Baton Rouge. But they're getting a good soaking right now. And that is extending all the way over Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, this new Sportcat castle, soon to be Tallahassee, north. If you know, you know. In the northern section of Tallahassee, not quite to the state line. And then later today, this is going to push off through from pretty much Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, and keep going. Look up here in Virginia, and we see, well, it looks like Fredericksburg, Charlottesville. There's a pretty good little cell right there. It's got some power to it. Lake Monticello, I fished that lake. And then down here in Chesapeake Bay, there's another pretty good sized cell. That's got a lot of purple in it, so that could be some trouble. Keep your eyes open on that one. That's got a lot of purple in it. They just don't care about Columbus anymore. I agree, Chris. We've given up on Columbus. That, I was just sitting here thinking about as I'm reading it. Always is 110. Today was the first day that I'm sitting in a new chair. My iFocus are aimed up more. I wonder how long that damn map's been. April 30th. That's what I said. Don't always trust your news guy. The weatherman gets it wrong half the time. Hell, I was reading an old map, so I may have been. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I feel so bad about that. But except for Columbus, I don't give a shit about Columbus. Is there anything going on in Columbus right now? Nope. Everywhere around Columbus. Nobody even cares to give them a frost advisory. Oh, mercy. All right, let's jump out of this real quick. Let's look and see what the lightning is doing and see what kind of electrical activity. It's funny, we're talking about the storm off of the coast there, the entrance of the Chesapeake Bay. Wow, there does not appear to be a lot of electrical activity in that. That really surprises me, as purple as that was. So that must just be heavy rain. Most of the battering right now, good Lord, where did I get my raisin? Is to the south east. Really, yeah, to the southeast of New Orleans, really south of Pascagoula, out in the middle of the Gulf of America. Well, not in the middle, but, well, yeah, it's kind of in the middle of the Gulf of America, that little band. And once again, I would not want to be on an oil rig out there right now. I can't imagine what it would be like to go through an electrical storm during that. Let's see here. Tallahassee, that's a pretty good little cell right there. Up around Elgin's Air Force Base, that's a real good storm pushing off towards Panama City. You got a good storm north of the city. Let me zoom out and look elsewhere. Up here, it's kind of skirting Long Island up there for you, Denise. But it doesn't look like there's a lot of electrical activity associated with the storm currently, which is good news. Most of the energy is offshore for you, so that is really good news. Let's zoom back out here. We'll go to Rapid City. There's a small cell out there, so keep an eye on that. What do we got here? Yeah, it's a little teeny tiny cell just to the west, northwest of Fort Collins. And it's probably thunder snow. My friend has been sending me pictures of all the snow in Colorado, and it just blows me away. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is, well, with all these storms and crazy things going on, who has the most power outages? Texas, you currently are taking the contest by, get off of there, by 8,715. California, you're not far behind by 8,050. Ohio, 4,411. Kentucky, 2,503. West Virginia, 2,559. And those are the states with the most power outages. And I would expect to see during this heavy storm going up into the Northeast to see some up there this weekend. Electrical storms surrounded by water and high metal rigging. Yeah, doesn't sound like fun. That's the only place that I did not get. There's two places I've been a paramedic on: a helicopter, a plane, a train. Oh, I don't know where else. But I wanted to do, by the time I realized I could do Antarctica, I had all the clearances. I was too old. You have to have a clearance to go to Antarctica. I did apply, but I was turned down by 1 year of age. And then the oil rig, I was accepted. But then when they told me they were going to put me in a class that they put you in a helicopter at about 100 feet up, and they release the levers and it free falls and then flips over in a 25-foot-ish deep pool, and you have to survive the fall, unseatbelt yourself, and get out before you run out of air. Yeah, I was done. I was like, yeah, I'm too old for that crap. So maybe when I was a younger lad, I went through the fire academy, but that just didn't sound like fun at my age then. So I was like, yeah, not a fan. All right, so there is your power outages currently. Over the weekend, if you want to check this, go to power outages, poweroutage.us, and check it out and see. The other prepping channels are telling you to be watching California and Pennsylvania. I'll leave it at that. If you want to watch their stuff, go for it. I watch it so you don't have to. I watch it and scream at the TV, how do you have 10,000 viewers? That's usually what I'm doing. I swear I'm not making this up. All right, so we're looking at something here that it's getting to be summertime, and we're going to have to start talking about, especially for those in the South. There is a significant chance with the thunderstorms. Now, this is where the power outages they're coming up with the blackouts on the other prepper channels. There's a chance in the Southeast of there being some significant storms that will raise this higher, but it's currently a level 1 yellow, which means minor. The heat level affects primarily those with extreme sensitivity to heat, especially when outdoors without effective cooling. Some channels are saying to keep your eyes on the Southeast that could raise because of the possibility of a blackout. I'm not using this as clickbait. That's why I don't put it in the titles. None of that. I don't see it. But, like the Fox News reporter, they've got her highlighted and outed with faces looking like they're going, and they're getting 10,000 clicks. I did not do that. I'm not going to do that just to get clicks and views. If you want to watch my stuff, come over to the Paranormal Guys on YouTube. If you don't, well, then you don't. But they're also saying that because of the excess use and the excess heat, and it being an orange level in large sections of California, and the orange is moderate, that means the level of heat affects most individuals affective or sensitive to heat, especially those without effective cooling and or adequate hydration. Key factors there: always hydrate. Now we're getting in summer. Impacts possible in some health systems and heat sensitive industries. So we're going to look at this on Saturday. We get up to a code red in sectors of the Californias. And then up here where it was just cool a couple days ago, we look at the Montanas, North Dakota, South Dakota, down there, sections of Idaho and Utah. You're looking at Getting into code orange, you go from pretty much code yellow to code orange up there, which is going to be a shocker for those people in those areas. And then look how on Sunday they're prognosticating that pretty much all of the Dakotas and into Minnesota, with some segments up by the California Canadian border being a red. So, and then Monday it's going to continue because that heat's going to be pushing through. I'm just going to click through this quickly because I think really going more than 3 days out is a bit much, but you can see is that heat is pushing through even down here into Texas. We get into parts of code red up until a week away where it's back here starting into the mid-south as that front is pushing through next week. But over the weekend, if you live in Florida, the Panhandle, lower Alabama, lower Georgia, on the coastland of North and South Carolina and inward, you're a code yellow for heat risk. So keep that in mind for your outdoor activities. If you're on the West Coast, pretty much up and down the coast in the valley there, San Francisco to LA, you're in a code orange. The rest of the state's in a code yellow. Oregon, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, I'm drawing a blank. Arizona, you're in a code yellow. Montana, South Dakota, Nebraska, you're in a yellow. Denver, you're just a weird one. It's going to snow and have a heat risk. So who the hell knows what it's going to do there. So there you go. Maybe I should just maybe I should go to school to be a weatherman and work in Denver, because hell, they don't even know what's going on. I saw a funny video on YouTube because I'm always watching weather things. And it was a weather forecaster in somewhere in Colorado. And he had left like the day before his forecast up, but it had changed from being warm to snowing. And, you know, they do the first one and they come back for like the 5:30 to the 6 o'clock. They come on at 6. He says, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what the hell it's going to do. And he walked off set. It was funny as hell. All right. So we saw that there was a smog alert. This is to the northern section up in the Klamath Falls and that little valley there. Ooh, up by Crater Lake. That valley there is a code orange. That's going to be for part of Oregon into, well, no, that's more for just the Rogue Valley from Crater Lake all the way down into Rogue Valley. Yeah, it's a code orange there. It's probably due to some of the prescribed burns and the heat is why it's a code orange there, correction. And really across the country, there's not any great segments, maybe up and down the coastline of California where it's code yellow for pollutants. In Kansas, South Dakota, that's probably from the smoke from the prescribed burns, and maybe out on the Outer Banks and up towards Hartford and outward code yellow. But the air quality today in the U.S. isn't really that bad, all things considered. Let's go down here to down under. Where am I? Right here. And we see, well, the air quality looks really good for Australia today. Kudos to Australia. Look at the fire and smoke map and see we have, let me zoom out slightly here. We have all these fires up in the northwest. Most of these are prescribed smoke extending up into Canada. We push it on our northern brothers. All the prescribed burns south of the west, good Lord, to the left side of the Mississippi. All that smoke is pushing generally back to the south and to our neighbors to the south of us. So let's look at the allergy map first, my favorite, which I never believe. This could be one of those maps that never changes daily, Chris. Pretty much West Virginia back to the west, straight across diagonally. It's code red. It's code orange above and below that, pretty much to the top of the U.S., and then down to the mid-southern valley. When I say that, I'm talking about Tennessee Valley south and back to the west, it's code orange. Here in the Tennessee Valley, it is code orange again. Yes, code orange again in East Tennessee. Grass pollen, well, it's probably a code red today for us. Yep, it's code red for East Tennessee, North Georgia, North Alabama, most of the coastal Carolinas and inland, and then back over to the West Midwest, including Texas. The breathing map, we'll see how that is. Looks like it's a pretty relatively decent day, except maybe in the Northeast and in Illinois, back over to the west of there. But everybody else is either a yellow or a green. Look at the aches and pains map because, well, we're going to be achy and painy for the weekend, right? And we look down the Gulf of America, probably where most of that electrical activity is. You're going to have some. Denise, for you up in the Northeast, have some aches and pains, but you're really going to be hurting if you're in Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine. So those areas can anticipate feeling achy and painy. This is the AI driven map of all the current pollutants and fires. And we see that coming off the Rockies, that air is splitting and going up to the west or north and pushing all the smoke from the fires pretty much into Canada, and coming here off the south, that's pushing it down into the Gulf of America to our Mexican neighbors. So that's how the smoke pattern is traveling. We don't see a real connection today between us and the African continent, and there's nothing. Those little lows they were talking about, this one they're a little concerned about off the coast of Africa. We'll keep an eye on it next week, but there was nothing in the Pacific. And as always, if you note, most of the pollutants and air quality problems are to the north of the equator. Down under, just the smoke and a little fog, smoggy conditions from your fires down there in Australia. But pretty much for the most part, you're going to be having a pretty decently windy day on the Gold Coast, on the east side of the country, mild across the rest. So it's going to be good. And if you're up here in the Middle East, well, it's a code orange and it's blistering hot on top of that. So there you go. I one time flew from Boston where it was 32 and we landed over here in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and it was 115 in one day. I went through that. And I missed that too, but that's another story. All right, so look at the fires in the United States. Currently, the main ones are along the Appalachia on the south side. The one up here in New Jersey, they're still working to control, but I'm told that it's more prescribed burning now up on the Jones Road fire. Down here in the Carolinas, you look and see Black Swamp, and then this one here is newer. What's the name of this one? Let's just click on it and see. Sunset Road. That one is working to be contained. All the little red dots are suspected fires. They have not been called in, or not. No, that's not the right word. They've been called in, but they have not got boots on the ground to determine if they are in fact a real fire. And as I've said, some of them could actually be structure fires or just large outdoor fires. Down here in the Panhandle, the Juniper Swamp still active, and down in Florida, they still have those active ones. Most of those are prescribed burns. Actually, all of those are prescribed burns. The only ones that are not are up on the coast, and they're cleaning those up on the coast. The ones that are free burning are still in the Appalachians in the lower Alleghenies. Over to the west, most of the large fires are prescribed or controlled burns. All right. And this is just a different map showing us the amount that they're contained. Black Swamp, 70%. Table Rocks, 97. 88 on Big Ridge. Down here, it's the scroll burn's been going on for 2 months. They don't even list this over here in New Jersey because they're so gotten to be so small. But most of the ones up here to the north are, well, in fact, all of them are prescribed burns. And to the west, most of them are, all of them are prescribed burns, even into Texas. So most of these fires to the left side of your screen are prescribed burns, except for really in the central southeast, I guess would be the quickest way of saying that. No real space warnings or space storms. The Aurora is not supposed to do anything crazy over the weekend. Let's play it to make sure. Nope, none of us in the lower 48 are going to get to know. Chris says, I hope you bought a different shirt to Kandahar. I have a story about that, Chris. I took a flight from Boston to Philadelphia. They called me in Philadelphia and said, the medic is sick. Can you do a hop from Mobile, Alabama to Boston, and you can overnight up there and we'll get you home. It's right before Christmas. The guy can't do it. He's out sick, or I don't know what his excuse was. I was like, sure, I'll do it. So I slept on the plane since it was an overnight flight and they'd already swapped pilots. And so land in Boston, go to the hotel. And I had dressed cold because I knew it was going to be in Philly. It was a little warmer in Mobile. They call and go, hey, we've got an emergency flight you got to pick up. I'm like, oh? And I said, yeah, we're going to fly you down to India. Wait, what? I spent all that time flying. Christmas Eve, I spent into off the coast of South America, one of the little Indian islands there. And it was about 110 degrees. I had nothing but my long sleeve flight suit and my jump boots. And I did have a pair of jeans. It was so warm at the place they put us up. They didn't even have doors. They just had basically a roll down screen, a bamboo screen, so that you could, it was so tropic. And I spent that night with my jeans rolled up, my boots up on the beach, and sitting my ass in the Indian Ocean drinking cold beer. Christmas Eve one year, I got stuck on a flight way down here in one of these little islands. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, I didn't have a spare shirt for that one. All right, we're looking at the big, bold, beautiful AI wind-driven map of the globe, and we can see all the nice, beautiful winds blowing and how they are flowing across the big, beautiful, round, perfect globe. We'll spin it around some. Okay, I wish I could do it like a marble. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of spin it. Go down to Australia and see what it looks like down there. And it looks like most of your wind is coming from the east, headed back to the west. But that high that is located pretty much off of, it's kind of in between Tasmania and New South Wales down there, is dominating most of your weather, even over to the west where it's keeping it all that high and dry air out. Maybe just up in the northern tropics areas where you get a little bit of break and it'd be a little more windy and gusty, besides for the Gold Coast. Maybe even a little cooler up there. But yeah, that is the beautiful AI wind-driven globe that you can even see the wind in Antarctica. All right. Move on. We've only got a few more minutes left, so we'll just kind of go over this real quickly. This is our event list. In India, a man is in critical condition after a bee attack. Well, he's not in critical condition. He died. So, wow. In Australia, I don't know if that's an old one. And let's see, bird flu, that nasty bird flu in Japan. And let's see, what do we have here? Go away, Twitch. Nobody wants to buy your viewers. Nothing new there. And let's see. Well, it doesn't look like much is being reported, which is good. U.S. 2 people dead, an officer involved shooting with U.S. Marshals in San Juan. I think I caught the headlines of that, and it had something to do with a Trinidad warrant they were serving on human trafficking, and they had to get into a police shooting. In Poland, a woman was killed in an axe attack at Warsaw University. And let's see, 5 intruders injured, 5 people, 5 employees reported injured by intruders at a Tokyo primary school, according to Japanese media. That's not good. One dead, 2 injured in a stabbing near Southern California High School. We covered that yesterday. And Portugal, day 3 without train service. Keep your eyes on things, folks. No new terrorist attacks reported. That's always good news. And of course, we know there's war going on in all parts of the country. And India overnight, 9 killed, 8 injured in a gas cylinder blast. In Pakistan, 3 explosions rock Lahore. An emergency response team is finally reaching the site. In fires, Singapore, fire erupts at an industrial building in eastern Singapore. New Zealand, fire rips through the homeless camp in Dunedin. And let's see, that's all from there. Outdoor fires we've talked about. Geological, Indonesia had a 4.0 earthquake. Bolivia in South America had an earthquake. Miramar had an earthquake. All of these are at 4.0. In the South Pacific, there was an earthquake of 4.0. And there was no tsunami alert issued. Separate one at 4.3 in the South Pacific. And Dominican Republic, a 4.3. Indian Ocean, 4.0. Miramar, 4.4. And Sea of Akhtas, I pronounced that probably wrong. It's a Russian Federation of 4.4 and a separate one of 4.4 in Russia. Seems like India is really hot and always has bad things happening. Yeah, and they're in a war right now. So, Northern Pacific Ocean volcano. And let's see. The spur, we've really talked about these. The spur, the Sitkin, and Kilauea are all kind of active right now, but none of them are blowing. They're all saying that there's a good chance that they could soon. So, all right. And see, Mexican City blackout. There's that keyword again, blackout. Keep your eyes open for that. South Africa, 100 vultures died of mass poisoning. We talked about that already. And North Korea, they're just constantly shooting things off. UK, a pilot dies after an aircraft crashes into Scott's Field as emergency crews race to the scene. Chile, an ambulance plane. Oh my, I used to work on one of those. Chile, an ambulance plane has crashed, killing 6. So it's usually a crew of 4 and of patient and spouse or family member. Sri Lanka, helicopter crashes in Asia. 2 rescued after a small plane crash in the Everglades near Homestead in Florida. And 6 dead as a helicopter carrying Chardim pilgrims. We covered that yesterday. And let's see. Nothing new there. Japan, 2 dead after a boat capsized in western Japan. We've talked about the weather, kind of ad nauseum. Dust storm. Well, it's that time of year in the Middle East. And you haven't lived until you've been to 115 temperature, 115 degrees, and a sandstorm. No fun. No fun. No fun. You can't enjoy a cigar in that. I'll leave it at that. I've lived an adventuresome life, I think. Let's see. Tornadic activity was reported. So far, I think we have the most on record this month in previous years of recording. I'd have to go back and check that, but I believe that's pretty much correct. Let's skip ahead here a bit. She talked about earthquakes, volcanoes. See if anything jumps out here. 80% tariff on 1 hour ago, according to President Trump, we're at an 80% tariff. Is that reduced? Because at some point in time, I thought it was like 130 or something. So the president determined that there will still be a 10% baseline tariff. This is being reported 10 minutes ago. So a 10% baseline tariff. Carolyn Levitt says the president continued with the 10% baseline tariff. So I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but apparently we have some breaking news on the tariff to be reported. So tune over to your local news channels to find out. I'm not familiar with what that is, but hopefully it means that things are going to get better for us here in America. Well, our economy is pretty much in trouble, and so is theirs. The tariff war needs to end. So, let's see. Boston, Mass. They had a fire about an hour ago. Newberry Street. Oh no, I'm sorry. Boston Fire Department apparatus was involved in a crash, requesting EMS. That's not good. That was about an hour ago in Boston. And kitchen fire in Lawrence, Massachusetts, about an hour ago. Let's see. And then at about 6 this morning in Brooklyn, they had a commercial bank robbery. It's awful early to be robbing a bank. Baltimore at about 3 this morning, they had a pretty good sized fire. All right. And then we're almost out of time here. Let's just take a quick peek-see. See if there's anything crazy with the military and what they're doing. No, nothing there. I've been keeping an eye on it, and there have been the P-38s been flying along the coastlines, and that usually means they're watching something. Wonder if this plane, it's a C-30, is going to turn right here and go up into there, and possibly put some people in to be observed for long periods of time. And C-130, now that's kind of an odd route for a C-130 when it's not, they're usually just troop moving, so I don't know what they're doing out there doing that. And there you go. Right there is a tanker. That tells you, in that tight formation like that tanker flying off of the Pacific Ocean right there above the Tijuana Mexican line, with it flying at tight formation, there's at least a minimum of 30 fighter jet aircraft in the vicinity that it's refueling. And look at this. There was one just before that, and I bet you this one was going in from doing that. No, that was a tanker as well. So that one might just be starting. And hold on, let's zoom in here. Look at this. Look at the tight formation these guys are in. All right, so look at the tracks. There is something going on the West Coast that they're really keeping an eye on. So keep your eyes on that. You can go up and check this out. And anybody saying I'm giving out top secret information, it's all public information in the source. All right, I need to tell everybody you can find me Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Thin Line Rock Station from noon until 2. Doing rock and roll. You can catch me here on Radio X in Australia, and Jurg's Radio, Right Talk Radio, and Radio Rainbow Radio. Doing this from 1 until 3 Eastern Time, midnight to 3 if you're in Australia. So good morning to you. I hope you're having a great morning. I hope you're having a great weekend. Hope everybody in the States is having a great weekend. Wednesday night, please come over to the Paranormal Guys and check out our show. We have a entertainment paranormal show where we interview everybody from adult sex workers to strippers to authors to what, you just never know who the hell you're going to get. So go check them out. They're all there on the magic of the YouTube to look at it anytime. Paranormal, 3 different words, Paranormal, and then we spell guys with a Z, G-U-Y-Z. That's every Wednesday night. Monday night, my young ladies, they have a great show. If you're into horror, they do Monday Night Horror. That's every night or every other Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. They try and keep it to 2 hours. It doesn't always go that way, but that's what they try and keep it to. So come check them out over there. You can find all of the Sportcat shows on YouTube. If you missed something, want to go back, or for some reason you want to hear some of my shenanigans or hear me ramble, you can catch me on Spotify, but I really prefer, I do need you, and I'm begging of all my audience members, please come to YouTube, find us, the Sportcat shows, Paranormal Guys with a Z, Paranormal Guys with a Z. I need you to come over. I need you to comment in the comments. Thank you, Ken. Yes, you will see me again Monday. I need you in the comment section because that stirs the algorithm. I need you to hit that thumbs up button because that helps the algorithm, but I need you to subscribe. We finally have our view hours up. So now we're waiting patiently to get to our first 1,000 subscribers. And if we get there, I may have a contest. So let's see if we can get us close by Monday. If so, we'll talk about a contest next week. Until then, everybody have a great weekend. Thank you for allowing us to tickle your ears. If you're in Australia, Right Talk Radio, Radio Yergs, or Rainbow Radio, we appreciate you, and we hope you have a great weekend. For everybody else, thank you. I appreciate you for, well, looking at me and putting up with my annoying voice for the past few hours. Have a great weekend. Unless something major breaks, you won't see me again until Monday, 1 o'clock. Everybody, we will see you soon. Until then, Sportcat is out.